Hello, welcome everyone to tonight's live session. I'm going to call it Capital Conversations. I'm AJ Smith, and I'm very excited that you're here to join me for another inspiring conversation packed with actionable insights, expert advice, and real world strategies to help you thrive in real estate. And speaking of real world strategies, we have someone today who has gone from wholesaling to a 40-unit apartment complex. And I'll get more into that. But before we jump in, just a quick reminder, I go live every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time with a brand new guest or topic. So be sure to tune in weekly, whether you're an investor, an aspiring operator, or just someone curious about building wealth through real estate. This is where you want to be. So once again, tonight, I'm very thrilled to introduce you to Grant Reiner. He is an apartment investor and a networker extraordinaire based in Indiana. So Grant has had an incredible 2024, accomplishing everything he set out to do at the beginning of the year, including closing on a 40-unit apartment, sending out thousands in returns to private partners, finding multiple off-market properties, and making huge strides in networking, social media, and personal growth. So Grant invests in a wide range of real estate, from homes to large commercial apartments, and he's passionate about diversifying his portfolio, helping others get started as operators, and building lasting relationships in the industry. So tonight we'll dive into how Grant built his portfolio with a focus on 40-unit apartment deals, his approach to finding off-market properties and building strong investor relationships, the importance of networking and how it's helped him grow his business, and lessons from his year, consistency, what's next for his real estate journey. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and get ready to learn from one of the most dynamic investors in the business. Without further ado, let's welcome Grant Reiner to the show. Grant, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. Your intro was too kind, and I'm like hyped up, almost like it was for somebody else. I'm like, let's go. That sounds great. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm stoked to have you here. Let's just kick things off. What inspired you to get into real estate investing, and how has your focus evolved over time?
Great question. I think I'm not too unique in this, but really I wanted freedom. And I didn't necessarily want tons of wealth, but I really wanted control over my time. And as I looked around at some different industries, I had some different ideas, and real estate definitely floated to the top of that list as far as separating your time worked from your income. It was a way to scale, so I could figure out how can I get a full-time salary without working full-time hours. And that was kind of the inspiration there.
Yeah. So speaking of full-time salary, hours, how much has that 40 unit pushed you toward that goal? Like, that's a huge milestone, right? Closing on a 40+ unit apartment complex is amazing. Can you just walk us through that deal and what made it stand out to you?
Yeah, that deal was interesting. It was a long and winding road. So I'll try to give you the bullet point list, and then if there's anything that we want to dive into in more detail, we can. The quick version of the story is that there was a handshake deal of some kind between a wholesaler and a broker. So it was a very unique start right off the bat. And there was another buyer that was also involved. And the end of the story is things fell apart, and we were there kind of waiting in the wings. So I was with my second group of partners that I pursued the deal. And we were there when things fell apart, and were able to capitalize on not just a good, low basis as far as the purchase price, but also some terms that were just really favorable based on the situation.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So I'm sure there's some folks in the audience that are looking at this and they're wondering, what did those terms look like? What was it that in those terms, we always look at low basis, right? When we're looking at deals, we want low basis, but terms can also make or break a deal in certain ways too. So I'd love to know, what were some of those terms that were really enticing for you?
Absolutely, man. One of the things that we were able to get lowered was the purchase price. So that's an easy lever to pull if you can, easy to understand. So we basically got a deal that was listed at $2 million, maybe even or two at the beginning, to come down, and we ended up around 1.6 million. And that translated to a per unit price, but just under $40,000 a unit, which is insane. It's not a number that you are able to get often. So we were really excited about that. Some of the other terms that allowed us to get into the deal without raising a ton of outside capital was my partner negotiated some seller financing in addition to us working with a bank. So we got a little bit of seller financing in the amount of about $300,000. And then we negotiated with a bank to go ahead and include some of our repair budget as well in with our loan. And there were some extra terms there as to how that money would be sent out to us. But We did not have to raise $300,000 that the seller provided, which helped with our down payment. And then we didn't have to raise a lot of our CapEx either, which is a fancy term for our repair budget, the work that we're going to do once we get in there, the improvements that we want to make. So yeah, man, between those two things, the situation, lowering the price, getting a little bit of seller financing, sort of a combo, we didn't get a full seller finance deal, and then negotiating some repair money with the bank, with our primary lender, it turned out to be a real winning situation, which allowed us to have fewer partners in the deal, which ultimately makes it simpler. So yeah, we're excited about it.
Yeah, and speaking to a lot of experienced investors, I found the JV structure they like a lot, but also in terms of that capital stack, they structured it similarly. There's a lot of folks who are later on in their careers, and they enjoy that ability to not only have the primary debt, maybe from a bank, but a seller carryback, like a portion of seller financing that's reducing their cash to close and improving their returns. I'm really curious in terms of the seller note. Can you share with us some of the terms of that in terms of maybe interest rate, amortization? Is there anything about that was extraordinary, or, overall, it's really nice to have seller financing, but is there anything about that you'd point out?
Yeah, we didn't get particularly great seller financing terms, but the fact that it was there was huge for us. But we ended up at 7%, which was at the time about where the banks were. And typically I would offer something a little lower than what the banks do. You get a lot of perks by getting financing through a bank. They service your business. They actually want you to have your accounts there with them. There are support staff that will help you with loan paperwork, building issues, finances, all kinds of stuff. So when it comes to seller financing, I like to get a rate that's a little lower than the bank because the seller doesn't do anything for you. It's just extra cash in their pocket. But we were around 7, which was around market at the time. I don't actually remember our amortization schedule for that, but we did also negotiate interest only. And that's the part that I just recalled. So I think we've got that at interest only, and then we've got our primary loan also at interest only. And I think that was for a period of 24 months, if I'm not mistaken.
And how much of an operational lift was this property? Is this something where it's 50% vacant, or you guys had 10% vacancy? What did the operational lift look like for this second?
Man, it looked light. It looked really light. And that was another thing that kind of excited us, because I'm from a background of like, hey man, there's holes in the floor. Like, you can't even walk the property safely. I picked up a few duplexes like that back in the day. And so I was really excited for this one. This one was actually renovated inside in 2018. And so most of the units were pretty good. They didn't go to maybe quite the level of renovation that we like to go to, but they had new cabinets, some new countertops, although they were laminate, some other things, new fixtures and things. So they were really in good shape, man. And the occupancy, which is a good thing to bring up, was also really solid. They had a waiting list at various times during the deal. They were between 90 and 100% full. So from an investor perspective, you want to see that because it just makes things safe. You're like, okay, we're basically buying a business here. Does the business have customers? That's really important. You got to zoom out just to business 101. Where is the money coming from? You can kind of get lost in the spreadsheet sometimes, but I like to back out and then ask those big questions. So yeah, when we have 90% occupancy, 100% occupancy, that's a really great feeling, because it's like, okay, this is a functioning business. They've got money coming in, expenses going out. Here's where it is. So yeah, we didn't have to do a whole lot. There were some things that we went in with desire wise, like we're like, okay, we could really improve things for tenants if we did this. And then we also had a target goal of market rents. We didn't want to be above market. We weren't trying to transform it into like a luxury property from a B class, but we wanted to maybe take it from B to B plus and just make it nicer for the people that were already living there. We also didn't want to kick anyone out. So, that's their home. And I don't like to do that if at all possible. And I haven't yet in my career, which I'm proud of that. So we wanted to keep the people there. So what we did is we decided to renovate the interiors, the units, when people left. So as soon as they moved out and a unit came open, or if a unit came open for whatever reason, we would then go in there and just add those little extras that we felt like were missed from the previous owner, and something to just lift the property up just a little bit. And that also was great from an investment side, because we could make sure that we got market rents, which we did a thorough study on. So yeah, little details in the renovation there. Good question.
Yeah, and I think it's a sign of a great deal when you don't have to aim for above market rents to make the deal work. If the deal works at market rents, that means that your cost basis is low enough that you're making profit still. Like, you're buying it at a great price. And so I think that's a really, really great sign. If I can look on apartments.com or wherever and see apartments down the street that are renting for what we're aiming for with similar finishes, that's a great sign. And so that's awesome. Any other items that you guys do or have focused on for the operational lift? Has it mostly been unit renovations? Have you done anything with other income? Anything else to the property that you've looked at?
Yeah, we have. There were some things that we wanted to do. We knew the interiors were safe as is. We didn't have to do anything on the inside, but we wanted to do a little bit of that and just make sure on that side. The things that we wanted to do originally at the very beginning that we felt, okay, we really need to do this, is a lot of stuff on the outside. So the big project that we started with was our parking lot. So there's a parking lot there. It's pretty sizable, man. It got at least one spot for every unit and I think a few extras, but it had deteriorated over time and we wanted it to be safe. And so we did a light like resurfacing, added some new material, filling in some potholes and things like that. We resealed it. And then the other thing is there were no parking spots. It was so far gone that it was just a blank slate and people were kind of parking wherever and there wasn't a lot of urbanization. So we striped the parking lot, and in that process, we were able to add some handicap spots, which were never there. So that was super cool just to have some of those front and center. And then we also redid a walkway that was crumbling from the parking lot to the building itself. So those are projects that we've completed in the last couple months. And this coming year, after the winter, we're here in the Midwest, so we're dealing with cold weather right now. Come next year, we want to do some stuff to the exterior of the building itself, including some painting and some resurfacing with some new materials, just to give it a more modern look. Right now, it doesn't look very residential, and we want it to feel a little bit more like home and bring it up to par. And then lastly, we're putting in a new sign. So a little bit of a funny story here. The sign that they had prior was actually like a yard sale sign. So it was one of those little metal signs that you buy at Lowe's or something and you tap it into the ground. Yeah. And the building is huge, right? Like it's, I don't know how many yards long. It's probably 80, 100 yards long. I don't even know for sure. It's 3 stories. Okay, this thing, it's a monster. And they had this little tiny sign out front that was just completely dwarfed by the building. And it had the name of the apartments on it. And then below that, even smaller, was a phone number to call for leasing, you know? So yeah, we have the privilege of getting a new sign installed. So that sign is actually being constructed right now as we speak. So we're through the design process and we're gonna put a big old sign out there, got approved by the county, and we've got a new name for the apartments. So yeah, it's kind of a cool project to work on, and it helps identify the building. No one will ever get lost again or wonder if they're at the right place because we will have a lit sign out there. So
Nice.
little things, AJ.
Yeah, well, it's the little things. And also, I think what's great about starting with the exterior, which is what you're doing, is these are renovations that they impact all of the residents there from the get-go. If you start with interior renovations, you may have one resident that's like, this is sweet, thanks, I'll pay you more rent, you know, whatever it is. They enjoy it more, right? If you start with the exterior, right, everyone enjoys that building more, not just the residents there, but the community, people driving by, people considering renting there. It's a much greater, in my opinion, ROI, especially in the beginning. You know, there's everything from paint, landscaping, like you said, the restriping of the parking lot. All of that can make a major curb appeal difference. And I think that is a huge factor in why you guys are having some really success as well, just because you're focused on some of those interior items too.
Yeah, and while we're talking about this, I want to throw out credit to my partner, Travis, who's handling a majority of those projects. So shout out to Travis, who's just crushing it, doing a great job with handling most of those renovations.
Very good. So cool. We've talked about the big one. Let's talk about where you started, because it's been a journey, right? Why there you were and kind of your journey to get here.
Well, the original plan, AJ, was I was going to do a startup or maybe 2 startups. And so I had some business ideas and I also had some friends with some ideas. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do that, those are like moonshot, you know, when you're doing a tech startup or something like that, they're moonshot ideas and they're really hard. You're starting from zero. And at the time, I wasn't really familiar with buying businesses and things like that. And I was just excited to build something new. And I was also distressed at my job, so at my W-2. So I had all this motivation to change it up. One of the first things that came up the list, like I said at the beginning, was real estate. Because I was like, man, this could meet my goals of like, you know, having some free time to work on these other projects. And you know what? If I get a basis of real estate, maybe like 5 to 10 units, and I do it right, and they cash flow, that might be enough money for me to survive while I build these other companies. So I had these grand ambitions. Well, fast forward to 2 years into that process, and I had maybe 5 units at the time. I maybe just gotten up to 5 units. And the companies that I was working at, these tech startups, one of them failed, and another startup was actually in the e-commerce space, and that also failed. We had some management issues and partner issues and all kinds of stuff with those businesses. The challenges that you run into, when you're starting from scratch, it's not fun. But AJ, I looked around and I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Because I thought this was it. I threw myself into it. And I realized that the real estate that I had picked up and was still looking at on the side was doing great. And I wasn't showing it any attention. I mean, I wasn't spending more than like an hour a week on it, just checking in, maybe managing a little project here or there. It was just a few units. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I do more of that? Like, what if I just focused instead of being spread thin with different businesses and different things? What if I just focused all my energy on real estate and didn't do a startup? That's interesting. Okay. So that's kind of where I made the pivot and kind of got out of those other businesses and really just focused on real estate.
Nice. So you focused on real estate. What did that focus look like from 5 units on?
It looked like change. I had to change the way I was doing things, and I had to change what I was shopping for, and I had to change everything. I had to change the kind of partners. I had a partner that helped get a few of the small units. We picked up a few duplexes along the way. I had one partner, we got 3 duplexes together, and that was great. But they didn't have the kind of capital or maybe appetite for commercial stuff. But I knew if I'm going to do real estate full time, I should probably, I need to go bigger. I can't be picking up a house here or there or a duplex here or there, because it's just not going to get me to where I want to be financially. So yeah, I had to change everything. So one of the first things I did was start studying commercial size deals and what's different about the lending process. What are the roles that I need to fill? And I actually put in some offers on some big properties that I never would have looked at before, because all of a sudden I had this time, right? I had 40, 50 hours a week that was all of a sudden freed up. So I was like, man, I could take down a mobile home park. I could, even if I'm working it myself, I could spend the time. I'll go move out there. I'll do whatever it takes. Let's get these big deals. Well, I had a few of those come and go, didn't land any. And at that point I knew, what I need? I need some mentors, because that got me going with the small stuff. I used mentors for the single family homes and the duplexes. Super helpful. It was like a fast forward button, like a cheat button. So I was like, okay, I knew who's an expert in commercial real estate. So I started looking around at some masterminds, and I knew that if I joined one of those or 2 of those, that I could find new partners. I could find people that understood what I didn't understand about commercial, and that would help me pivot from the small stuff to the big stuff. So that's the next thing I did. So all that happened within a period of probably 4 to 5 months. That process of trying to do some commercial deals myself, realizing some of those things that I needed to change, and then I took action and joined a mastermind.
Nice. Yeah. And I like how you highlighted really one of the biggest takeaways from masterminds, at least this is what I found for myself, have been the partners. It's been the people that you meet in the mastermind. It's not really the material. The material is good. The material is good. You can learn a lot of it in a lot of places, but you can't necessarily meet the people in those places. And so essentially with the mastermind, you're getting in the rooms with the people you need to be in the rooms with in order to get to the next level. And it sounds like that helped you a lot too.
Yeah, right on, man. Right on. Relationship. It's true on every level of real estate. Even if you're just working on the small stuff, you need a relationship with that seller or that person whose home you want to buy. You need a relationship with your banker, somebody that can sort of expedite, the financial side of it when the transaction comes time. You want a relationship with an insurance guy who can be honest with you and give you the best rates and kind of has your back on things. So it's no different in commercial, and masterminds, groups like that are huge for just relationship building. And you find all kinds of people in those groups too, man. It's not just guys like you. A lot of times we have that view, like we just put our own perspective onto other people. And you'll find really quickly, if you start putting yourself out there and getting outside of your bubble, that there are all kinds of people that join those types of groups. They aren't all just you. So there's some partners in there and some relationships that can fill in gaps in your skill set or needs that you might have in your business. And hopefully you can do the same for somebody else. That's the deal. It's your job to provide some value too.
Right. And speaking of, in terms of providing value, building relationships, how do you establish trust with people that are potential partners or just people in that network? How have you gone about doing that?
Man, that is a challenging question, AJ. Challenging question. I think working together a little bit through the deal before you finalize a partnership is probably the best way. I've done it a few times. I will fully admit that I've also gone into partnerships blind before. And from my anecdotal experience, it feels like when I've worked with somebody ahead of time on a project without being official, even if that means me putting in hours or putting up money or doing something that's pushing the deal forward, I tend to get a sense of my partners and they tend to get a sense of me. And there have been some people who I'm like, I don't feel like I'm vibing with them. And the only way you can sort of get that sense is by doing the work together. You need to be in close proximity with them. So I think one piece of advice that I would give is, don't sign on to a company so quickly. Maybe do a project for free with those partners. Try to work with them on something where you're rubbing elbows and kind of pursuing a goal together and see how you work. And if you are able to communicate with each other, I'm sure there's lots better advice from people even more experienced than me, but that's something that I think has helped me. And it seems that those partnerships where I've done that, those have gone much better than the ones where I've just jumped in blind and then come to find out, hey, we're not a good fit.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of wisdom, either working for free with someone else or collaborating on a project in a smaller capacity and getting a sense of, okay, how does this person operate? Are they more of a big picture person? Are they more of a detail-oriented person? Are they someone who, this is their strong suit? Maybe they focus on this item. Having a good sense that partners' view of, deals, of relationships. I found the people that have been the best partners for me so far have been the ones that focus on the relationships, just like you mentioned, right? If they're relationship oriented rather than deal oriented, I think it's a very different feel in the partnership. And it's a feel of, I'm here to support you and to support the team rather than, there's still a feeling of like, let's go do some great things, right? And take down some goals. But there's also an undercurrent of like, I care about the relationship. And so that changes how you interact with that person. In terms of networking, I'm just really curious, how would you say networking has shaped your business? And what is some of the advice that you would give to other people if they're looking to build their network or they're looking to find these partners at some point in the future?
Man, I would love to say this to everybody. Please get out there and talk to people. Just get out there and talk to people. It is hard for some people, and I'm not an extroverted person in general where I'm like gaining energy from, talking to as many people. I'm not sort of a life of the party type of guy, but I understand that there's people even that have more trouble than I do talking with people, but it's really, really important to do it. And you'll find that you'll get over it very quickly and it'll become natural faster than you think. We are social beings, even those of us that love to just cozy up on our sofa and be at home alone a lot. And that's how we recharge. Man, you can't go very long without talking to people, even if that's you. So yeah, for networking, you've got to get out and talk to people. So a few of the things I started with, going to my local real estate meetup. I know you hear it probably a lot, but that was good. I happened to have a good home community with a good group of people in my city. I'm based out of Fort Wayne, and we had a good culture. There's a good culture there, a culture of sharing and partnership. So that did make it a little easier. But yeah, man, I just got out there. I went to a few meetups before I had any real estate at all, and started networking as early as possible. And we said it at the beginning or a little bit earlier about relationships. So you need those relationships, and you're not going to get those unless you meet people and talk to people. So getting out there locally is a great way to do it. See if you can call up a landlord, somebody who's maybe already into real estate, or somebody that's running an apartment complex like a property manager, and have them give you a tour, and just talk shop. People are happy to show off their stuff most of the time and can really open some doors by just getting a relationship with them and asking questions. And, provide some value along the way too. Try not to open with, hey, can you give me your broker's name? You don't just walk up and say that, try to be helpful. Say, hey, is there anything I can help you with? I've got some questions, could I buy you coffee? Be that kind of person as much as you can. But yeah, definitely get outside your comfort zone and go talk to people. Relationship business, that's just what it is. Real estate is relationships. So if you want to be in this game, you've got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's your contractor? honestly, if you want to build relationships, I think if you do have a great one and you meet someone and they're looking for more help, I mean, that honestly, that's like a huge thing everyone needs is contractors, good ones. So there's someone in your market that you're looking to build a relationship with. That's a huge piece of value you can offer them. Also, you just brought up meetups, and that made me think of my first one that I ever went to. And tell me, what was it? Oh my gosh, yeah, I think there was like 10 people there, and it was in an abandoned warehouse. It was like the top level of an abandoned warehouse. There's this circle of chairs, and everyone was just like sitting in the circle. There's nothing else in the damn thing, and you have the flickering light. I didn't know everyone, and I had that same feeling of when you're first starting, and you feel like you don't know anything. You don't know anything from anything, and you're going in there, and you're like, what value can I possibly provide to anyone else in the space? Everyone else is so much like further ahead than me. What can I possibly say that helps them? And honestly, I didn't say anything that whole meeting. All I did was show up, but I shook hands with people at the end, and I still know several of those people and like talked to several of those people from that first meetup that I ever was to.
Right. Yeah, it's great, man. Yeah.
I was so nervous, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't know anything. I hadn't bought any properties. I was like calling lenders, and I was stumbling over my words. Didn't want to get, but you do it. Like you said, you just call people, you just show up to the meetup, and just being there is a victory. And once you're there, you're in the room and you have the opportunity to build relationships. But if you don't go, you don't have that opportunity. And so I think that's a great piece of advice that you gave there. Just show up and just do it.
Yeah. And one more thing too, for people that do struggle with social anxiety or just interacting with new people for the first time, it really helps if you can formulate a sentence ahead of time to introduce yourself, and just sort of memorize that and say it in the car to yourself on the way over. Just your go-to sentence. Hi, I'm Jeffrey, or I'm Sarah, and I'm interested in building a real estate portfolio. Just something. Pick something out like that suits what you want to do, and just kind of repeat it to yourself. So it's a little tip that I learned a while back, and I think it's a good one for people just starting out. Makes you more comfortable.
Yeah, makes you more comfortable. It also opens the door to conversation. Yeah, then the people who have been in the industry can ask more questions like, oh, okay, so what have you started exploring? Have you looked into, so it's single family? Are you interested in multifamily? What questions do you have? Then that opens the door to them to give value to you. Because a lot of times people who are in the industry just love to teach. They just love to help people, move forward.
Yeah. Have you found that that's true more in this industry than in the previous industry you were in? I feel like that's been true for me, that somehow people who are business owners in real estate have been more open than industries I was involved with prior with those same business owners. It was felt like everything was shrouded in secrecy all the time, and there's a very high level of competitive spirit. But I feel that it's different in real estate. Have you found that to be the same?
I remember last year, I went on a cold calling spree. I had probably cold called like 500 numbers over the course of a couple months. And my entire goal was I want to get in front of owners. So I want to get in front of people who are in my local market physically. I want to sit down with them, take them to breakfast, take them to lunch, whatever, just so I can talk to them. And I found there were so many people that were just down for it. They were like, yeah, it's cool what you're trying to do. You're trying to buy something big. It sounds like you've had a little success doing some smaller stuff. Yeah, let's go get breakfast. Let's go get lunch, especially if you're paying. I mean, it's way down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody that's watching, that's the way into my heart as well. If you want from me Jimmy John's or Blaze Pizza or something, dude, I am there. I don't care if I value my time at $200 an hour. You tell me there's a free sandwich coming my way, like I will be there.
There's a free sandwich. I get to talk about real estate and maybe help some. Therefore, yeah, like I need. Okay, yeah. Life is short. Let's do lunch. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. Speaking of, when I was, I've done the cold calling thing. Initially, I was calling people basically just for deals, and then that shifted into relationship building. Hey, I want to meet you. I want to know how you grew your portfolio. I'm really curious when you were starting off, and as you were, doing some wholesaling, focusing on some smaller stuff, eventually going into bigger stuff. When you're looking at some of these off-market deals, I'm sure you've seen quite a few of them. What's your strategy for finding and closing them?
Well, I think it's best to do it in bite-sized chunks. So you got to break it up, and you're like, okay, the first thing I need to do is find a deal that pencils or could pencil, meaning where the numbers work. So that's kind of how I did it. I knew, and I knew this just from reading and watching some YouTube videos from some online mentors, that you needed volume, right? It's not like the first door you knock on or the first number you call is gonna be like, oh yeah, I am interested in selling. And by the way, it's a great price. That's not how it works. So I tried to concentrate on that side of things first. And then I kind of pushed off learning about negotiating until I actually had something to negotiate. I didn't want to spend time. And by the way, that's a change I had to go through. I used to be the reverse of that. I was so detail oriented and so overly analytical. Just a quick example that I usually share with people. I had a graphic design business at one time, just on the side, was never full time. I felt like I couldn't get my first client or even open my doors for business until I had my business cards done. I had to have business cards, otherwise I didn't feel like it was a legit business. And you know how long that took me? Probably 4 months, 5 months. I was back and forth to the printer, checking paper, redoing the design. And it took me forever to get going. Ultimately I did, but that's a change that I've gone through recently, is like realizing, hey, if you need to move, carve it up into bite-sized chunks and only focus on what's today and tomorrow. Like don't focus too much on all the other stuff. So it's difficult. It was difficult for me to become that person, and I'm still working on it. But yeah, so bite-sized chunks. So focus on getting the deal, and that is relationships, and it's volume. So you've got to contact a lot of owners. So to answer your question, man, how do you get the deal is volume. You've got to talk to a lot of people. Cold calling is great. Print is great. Signs, bandit signs are great. The trick with getting a deal, finding a good deal, is consistency. So don't try to do all those strategies, and don't pick one and only do it for 4 weeks. It's not going to happen.
4 months.
Yeah, or 4 months, So, you've got to do something, pick a marketing channel or a communication method, some type of relationship building that you can do long-term. If you're like, okay, I know for sure that I can send postcards out for 1.5 years. I love designing postcards. I love follow-up. I love the idea that I can just push stuff out and I don't have to call somebody up for the first time, but our first phone call is when they call me. Great. Do postcards and just commit to 2 years, 1.5 years, 2 years of just postcards, and don't miss a month. Make sure they go out all the time. You will be successful. That's what I believe anyway. So yeah, man, finding the deal is carving it up, contacting people, large volume, relationship, and do it consistently over time. Closing the deal, the second part of your question, that's a whole different thing. But if you don't have a deal to close, I wouldn't focus too much on that. But as soon as you get a deal to close, that's when it's time to learn. Okay, it's time to add a skill. So let's add the skill of negotiating. Okay, they said they're interested in selling. I told them I would give them a call back in an hour, or when I got back to the office, or in a little bit. Okay, what do I do? Okay, so now you can start calling up your mentor, finding out, okay, they're on the hook, they're willing to talk. Now what do I do? It's okay, so you start learning about, maybe I submit multiple offers. People like options sometimes. So hey, submit 2 offers. That's a cool idea, and make them a little different. Sometimes you want to say, okay, get them to give a number first and really ask a lot of questions and learn from them. What is it that they really need? If you think about it, most property sellers, they don't really need that extra $5,000, right? If you're negotiating here in the Midwest and properties are $100,000, $200,000, and it's $195, maybe I can get them down to $190. Maybe you can, but maybe that's not solving a problem for them. And they're probably not going to fight over $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So you shouldn't focus on the money, but maybe focus on asking them questions. And we're back to that same word again, AJ. Do you know what it is? Relationships. So, develop that relationship. And then all of a sudden you figured out negotiating. It's oh, this person, I just asked them what it is that they want. How can I help them? How can I make this? If this were an ideal situation, what do they say that the outcome would be? And work with them, man. It's people helping people. So at the end of the day, the ideal situation is that both people win. You get a great deal, they get their needs served, a great deal for them. So for closing deals, yeah, relationship with a capital R, and cross that bridge when you get to it. But I'd focus on number 1 first.
So I give you a hard question. I'm going to give you an even harder question.
Great. I'm ready.
How many times has someone asked you for your business card?
Well, Specifically business card, it's embarrassing, but it's a big fat zero. Big fat zero. Yeah. They might have said contact information. And if they did, I would have pulled out my business card, not because it was the best medium, but because, you know what, I had those business cards made and I'm going to use them. So you're getting a business card, whether you want it or not. You're getting one.
You can ask me for it, but here it is. Okay, you're nice. You're getting.
Yeah. It's 2024, but here's my contact info on paper. It's real paper. Go ahead, feel it.
It's fascinating. Like, I found when I go to conferences, not real estate conferences, but other industry conferences, I am oftentimes asked for my business card.
Business card. Yep.
Very often. They're like, you don't have a business card? I mean, I got my phone. I have Blink. If you want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so odd. I've had the same thing happen to me. I try to go to some conferences every now and again that are like sort of real estate or like real estate adjacent. And the last one that you just reminded me of is I went to a mortgage conference. So everybody there was bankers. And I didn't really belong there at all, but I thought, hey, maybe I'll, run into somebody that could give me some great loans or something. And man, it was business cards for days on the table, stacks, like fanned out business cards everywhere. They're just still so addicted to the tree killing over there. I don't know why, but
whenever I'm handed one, it goes straight to the garbage. Like, I hate to say it, or that's like, I hate to say it, but like, maybe I take a picture of it if it was a great conversation. But I mean, you're just adding an extra step. I might as well just use my phone from the beginning. Anyway, we're stopping. Relationships and getting people kind of in the funnel and reaching more people. Social media is starting to play a little bit more of a role in your growth. So how do you stay consistent with posting? And what are some of the results that you've seen from putting yourself out there?
Great question. How do I stay consistent? I set goals for myself, which is like the most cliche thing ever. And it still makes it hard to do. It's not like a great answer of like, how do I get it done? But it does help to have something defined. So one of the goals I have is to post daily to Instagram. I post multiple times per week to Facebook. So that could be 2, 3, 4, whatever. It's just more than once a week, but not once a day. And then LinkedIn is once a week. So I kind of go top down. So the most is Instagram, next most is Facebook, and then LinkedIn is my once a week long form. That's just a formula that I kind of worked up between some different advice that I got, plus what I just naturally use and some platforms I was on already. So I already kind of understood Instagram a little bit, and I definitely understood Facebook. I've been on there forever. So yeah, so that's what I do. And then I basically set those goals for those time frames, and then I just try my very best to stick with it. And I found that the habits started to develop in me where I didn't even have to think about the goal much anymore. I would just kind of like say, okay, in the morning, I sort of schedule time for myself to get through emails, and I do my social media. So it's one of the first things I do during the day. And they say that's a great thing to do for like working out or lots of things. If you want to prioritize something, bump it up as early in the day as you can. So a lot of my social media stuff happens in the morning for me. I wish it were working out, but I try to squeeze that in later. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff that I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Results was the second part of your question. I have garnered some really good relationships from social media, including one partner who I'm hoping to close a deal with here this year. We almost closed a deal together last year, or no, not last year, this year. Came really close, had an offer on the table, had a verbal and all that stuff. So that's really exciting, man. That was a person who I've never met. I came across them on a podcast and reached out to them, and we vibed, and yeah, now we're working on deals together. So that's kind of cool, man. It's a chance for me to be a GP partner in a real estate deal, like a commercial deal that came directly from social media. We connected on LinkedIn, and he was able to see sort of my history of posts, and I was able to sort of research him a little bit. And I just reached out to him, just cold messaged him on LinkedIn, yeah, and started a relationship. So that's one result. The other results are I've gotten a few coaching students. So I do some real estate coaching just on the side. It's not, I'm not starting a coaching business. I'm not selling a course. I'm not doing any of that. My goal is just to spend some of my spare time helping people just the same way that I was helped when I got my first few deals. I really had people reaching out to me and helping in ways that they didn't necessarily need to. And I was also able to pay, a couple mentors for some advice during some difficult times in the business getting started. So that's another thing. I've got a couple students from that. And I think the next thing on the list, social media, is really building up my investor network. So I have a list of investors. I think I have nearly 100 people that I can reach out to for capital. I'd really like to grow that to several hundred. Sometimes people are not able to invest in real estate at a particular time in their lives. Maybe they've just invested in a deal or something's come up. So it's really good to have a list. So I've been focusing a lot of my posts, making them for investors and trying to build some relationships there, find some new partners. So
Nice. And so you've got a lot of professional goals. How do you balance your professional goals with personal ones? I know you love music, you're a musician. How do you make time for each of those items?
I think right now, because I still feel new to the business and it's only been maybe 2 years full time now that I've been focused on this, I still have a ways to go before I feel comfortable that things are stable and sort of the ship has been righted and things are good, that I've put off some of the personal things that I like to do. I did set a goal for myself that the first time that my business broke even for 2 months in a row, that I would take a break and work on some music, some new original music. So I hit that goal in 2023 for just a couple months, just 2 months, and I failed. I did not keep my promise to myself. I did not go work on music. That was bad on me. I should have kept that promise to myself, but I failed. It happened again in 2024 here. I had a couple break-even months, and that is when I finally did it, AJ. I scheduled some time to go to a music studio. So to answer your question, I sort of specified a goal, and then I said, okay, if X happens, then I'm gonna do Y. And I did that so that I could remember why I was in this. I'm not in this for money. I'm not in this to own something big and fancy, like a giant house or fancy cars. I'm in this for freedom time so that I can create. So that was my way of reminding myself of why I'm in the business. So yeah, I was able to go do that, and I'm excited to say, oh, that's some new music coming out next year, and super pumped to be able to have spent a few weeks just working on something creative and not related to business at all. So I'm hoping to do more of that in the future. I think there's not a balance there yet. There's not like the balance that I'm looking for yet, but I'm taking a step at a time, man. And each year, my goal is to have a little bit more creative time each year. So wish me luck.
I wish you luck. And I also wish that some of those folks will check your music out. Is there a Spotify EP we should check out? A Spotify artist?
Yeah, there it is. There is. My artist name is Surprise Asteroid.
Surprise Asteroid.
Check it out, which is awesome. Yeah, it's on Spotify, Amazon, Google, all the spots.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's sort of indie rock stuff, a little like Weezer, a little like Third Eye Blind, some 90s stuff, coupled with like some 2010s. Those are sort of my generations of music. So
Do you do original music? Do you do covers? Do you do both?
I do all original music right now. I do have a list of covers going that I would like to do at some point, but I've got some original music that has been close to my heart and I'm working on. I want to get all that out. So I'm hoping the first new song will come out this January 2025, and I'll be releasing music all year. So I actually have a bunch of new songs coming. So probably 2 new EPs will come out next year. So yeah.
Good. Very good. Hi out, people. So you love Indiana. Indiana's your market, right?
Yes, sir.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the Indiana market right now, and how are you adapting your strategy to capitalize on them?
Man, industry trends in Indiana. I think we're seeing a huge boom with economic development. So what that means is the government, the state government, and trickling down to the county and city level municipalities are very, very focused on economic growth. I think we're late to the game as far as, when you compare to other states, but I think we're ahead of some as well. So, but what we have happening here is an explosion of businesses. The timing of that was not really purposeful, but it happened to work out great with what happened with COVID and some other things where people are leaving the coasts and major metro areas and moving inland, moving toward the Midwest. People are moving to Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. Yeah. And there's lower cost of living, better lifestyle. People are sort of realizing going through these mental health crises and physical health crises. And so there's this huge movement that's happening between finance and health. And it just so happens to overlap with several states in the Midwest really pushing big on economic development. So what does that mean? It means occupancy rates are up. There are more people here, where the housing crisis has now moved to the Midwest, where there are not enough houses for the number of buyers. We have jobs, which means a slight bump in rents that people didn't expect to see here. The Midwest stays flat for quite a while. It's very, very slow to increase rents, but those have gone up quite a bit. So yeah, taking advantage of those opportunities are like, okay, where are these businesses? These governments are greasing the wheels for business. Where are these businesses opening up shop? What towns are they going to? What cities are they going to? Where are the jobs? Where can I get appreciation from the boom on the ground? And where can I get customers who are basically tenants in our business? Our business, the customers are tenants. So that's how I would take advantage of the trends in Indiana. And the apartment building that we just closed on is in one of those markets. So it's in a market that's got some EV battery plants opening, a ton of other new businesses coming there related to the automotive industry and some other industries. And we're just really thrilled to be in a market like that. And we've got some other opportunities. We're working on 2 deals in Indianapolis, and we're working on some other deals in the northern part of the state near Fort Wayne. So yeah, man, it's a good time to be in the Midwest and good time to be in Indiana.
Yes, sir. Very nice. I totally agree with you. And I think when it comes to the macroeconomic trends, if you're able to look at those and dissect them and start to see where the winds are blowing, and, kind of skate to where the puck is going, if I can cross my metaphors here, there's a lot happening, and if you can look at that information and you can determine based on, like you said, there's subsidies, there's all sorts of wheel greasing going on in terms of, where do we want to incentivize certain industries to grow jobs or place factories or expand their business? Can we identify what those markets are and where these companies are likely to move or to increase their operations and get ahead of that and start to buy some of the property in that area? That's a great way to get into the path of progress while still buying at an affordable price. It's like buying before Austin, Texas pops off. Maybe it's not the same level of growth, but it's still the same concept of who wouldn't want to own a piece of real estate in Austin, Texas before it becomes extremely desirable. There's a lot of that happening in the Midwest right now, like you mentioned, with great jobs, great population growth being driven by some of these subsidies and some of these, tax breaks and whatnot, driving businesses and business growth. So it's a great point. If you can look at the macroeconomic winds and determine based on those, where are the areas going to be that are going to experience a lot of this growth, you can change your business strategy a little bit or maybe adapt it around that to take advantage of it. It sounds like you have done.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's skill or luck. I'm gonna guess number 2, but the fact that I moved here to this state and had this happening now as I start, the real estate business, it is great, and I'm really, really proud of how far I've come, and I'm really proud of my partners too, man, who work with me and have helped me get going here. And I do want to say, you got to be careful of that too, because you want to be balanced with, understanding where the progress is really coming and trying to stay away from speculation, because speculative investing is never great. So it's great if you can find a deal that works today in a market that you think is going somewhere, right? Where you see that potential happening. Make sure the deal still works today. Don't buy it hoping that, oh man, hopefully this deal goes well and hopefully I make money if such and such happens. Always encourage people to underwrite conservatively and make sure it's a good deal today as much as you can. And I think that'll help you stay in business.
Yeah, throw your 10% rent growth projections out the window. It's not a far thing to do. Yeah. Works at 3% rent growth and you have population growth and you got job growth and you got all these wins at your back pushing you forward. That's a great deal. But baking those into your underwriting, that is a recipe for disaster if that thing does not happen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right up. So speaking of, how far you've come, looking back at your goals for 2024, we're at the end of the year, we're in December. Which accomplishment are you most proud of and why?
I haven't thought about this one, man. That's a good question. I think I'm most proud of the fact that I've been able to bring some other people on board to help me. I think that's one of those things that I dreamed about, is like, maybe I could have the kind of business where I could support another family or support some other people. And this year, my partners and I brought on a full-time employee to help manage some property for us. And I've also got a couple part-time people that are helping me out. And I think I'm not only proud of it from a business perspective that I've had the privilege to do that, but man, is it so much more fun. It's so much more fun to work with other people, you know? When you're just starting off, you're a solopreneur is what they call it, right? It's like you're by yourself a lot of the time, you're grinding it out. You might have some calls with mentors or, lean on a local friend now and again, but when you're actually doing deals with other people, they're involved with you, they're helping you out with the paperwork, they're finding deals for you, they're handling stuff that you're too busy to handle, and you feel like, man, I can share the burden with other humans. Dude, it's so cool. And it's fun to go celebrate too, man. We closed the deal as a team and just going out to eat and enjoying a little bit of life, and celebrate the moment. It's fantastic. So today I'm gonna go with that answer. So
Very nice. Yeah. So you guys have accomplished a lot this year. What's next for you? Are there specific goals or projects that you're excited about as you head into 2025?
yeah, man, I'm trying to catch up to this guy named AJ Smith. So my unit count goal is to get to over 100 units, and then I want to reassess. I want to reassess the business, reassess my life, and I'm documenting that journey to that goal on Instagram. And so right now, that's my focus, and I think I will get there in 2025. That's an arbitrary number, by the way. There's no dollars associated with that. That's just one of those things where when I decided to take real estate full time and be really serious about it, I thought that was a good first step. So I'm halfway there, by the way. That's the update on the lives. I'm halfway there. So yeah, I just gotta do another half next year, and we should be good to go. So we're just gonna keep at it.
Yeah, you'll do it. You'll do it. If people want to keep in touch with you, if they want to reach out, if they want to find you and see your journey, where can they find you?
At Grant the Investor on Instagram is a great place to start. I would love to talk to you. So feel free to DM me. If you need help with anything, DM me. If you've got deals, DM me. We provide referral fees. If there's a deal that we close, you want to get involved in something, I'm a born collaborator. So feel free to reach out at Grant the Investor on Instagram.
And Surprise Asteroid on Spotify.
Yeah, if you want to rock out, hit up to Surprise Asteroid.
Well, Grant, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a joy. Always good to see you. And for everyone else, thank you for joining us. Grant, any last words that you want to share with the folks that are watching?
AJ, I just want to thank you, man. Thank you for being out there and sharing your journey as well. You're right there alongside with me, and I appreciate you having me on. And you're an inspiration. And yeah, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure, as always, to talk with you. So we are going to hang out in person in a couple months. So I'm looking forward to that. So hang tight, buddy. I'll see you soon.
Hey, same here. And for everyone else, as I mentioned right at the beginning, we go live every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. So tune in next week. We'll have another guest, another topic. And until then, I've been AJ Smith. This has been Grant Ryder, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.